Hi, it's Editing Daphne and jumping in to just let you know, originally I had this as a part of a larger Fourth Wing Iron Flame spoiler vlog, so I don't have a true intro. So this is that intro. Welcome to the Iron Flame only spoiler vlog. I'm going to be giving you lots of juicy details and recaps and my in real time thoughts on the book as I read it. So welcome to the video. I hope you enjoy it, and let's jump to previous Daphne giving her first update on Iron Flame. I hope you enjoy. I started reading Iron Flame. I'm really not that far. I'm 22 pages and I just got to chapter 3. But a decent amount has happened. All you really need to know is that Vi is still mad at Xaden. Brennan has been explaining like the war effort of the revolution, and they're really like struggling. They're like gonna lose. Like the enemy is too powerful, but they need their connections, like get the weapons, blah, 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 blah. Basically, the students need to go back to the school because that's where this like forge is, where they're able to make the weapons that they need for the revolution. Like there's not that many of these forges and they can't lose that access. Also, there's apparently like a 6-month deadline estimated for disaster. They can only hold them off for so long, or it's like how long until they'll reach their borders. I don't know, with like the dark people, with the like with like the dark wielders and all that stuff, there's like this added pressure and timeline. Vi's mom definitely knows about the venin, but she doesn't think if they go back to the school that her mom will kill them because she didn't create the war game ambush situation. That was Dane's dad. Dane's dad like set that all up. So we'll see. They haven't gone back to the school as far as I've read yet. And then the other major thing that's happened so far is that Andarna, the little tiny baby golden dragon, has grown to adolescence overnight because Vi used her freezing power like for too long or something. So it like affected her growth, I guess, like in the sense that like you freeze time, it sped up Andarna's physical time. So she's grown like more than double the size in a few days. It's just gonna be funny too because apparently adolescent dragons are like very moody and not easily controlled and don't really like anyone, and they're not good at bonding with humans because they're just difficult. Just like any adolescent, really. It's already kind of funny. She's like too big for her own body. Like she can barely move. She looks like a baby deer. Fourth Wing started with low expectations, 5 stars. Expectations obviously have increased, but bringing it back down low for Iron Flame. One, because a vlogger that I enjoy said so, and also mainly because a lot of book reviewers didn't like Iron Flame nearly as much as Fourth Wing. Better to have low expectations. It mostly can just go up from there, you know what I mean? And it's better to go up in enjoyment versus being disappointed. I have a handful of updates on Iron Flame. I'm currently on page 266, and the last time I updated you, I was still pretty early on in the story. I have a bunch of notes that I've been writing down. I've been letting the big major moments accrue because like the pacing of this book is a lot slower, and I just didn't really have anything crazy to tell you. I didn't want to like tell you like little updates that weren't that important. Here are my notes for update 2. I've got a bunch to get through. Where we left off was like that whole battle with the Wyvern and the Vernon people. Vi got really injured. She finds out her brother's alive. She gets healed. The group of students decide to head back to the War College because Vi and Xaden are pretty certain that Vi's mom, like the general of the school, didn't know about this plan to get them killed, like what Dane's dad set up. So they think it's a better bet to go back versus like defecting. So they go back to the school, and the mom doesn't know that Dane's dad set it up. She ends up firing him because she knows there was an attack. She just doesn't know that they know the truth. Like I assume Vi's mom knows the truth about like the dark wielders and like the Wyvern and stuff, and she's keeping it on the DL, but she didn't know that this group was attacked by them. So I don't know. But either way, she's mad at Dane's dad for fucking up the war games, so she fires him. And in his place comes this new guy, Varish, and he's awful. Oh my god, he makes an amazing villain. He's like the commander. I don't really know what that means, but he has a lot of power at the school. And he hates Vi, and he hates all the marked kids that were in that battle where Liam died because they know too much. And they're trying to keep like leverage over him by saying like, we know the truth, we can tell everybody the truth, da 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 da. And he's like, well, secrets die with the people, right? So basically he's threatening to kill them, which he's kind of doing. Like, he's trying to kill Vi, and he's killed off a few of the others. So I think there was like 10 of them, and like 4 of them throughout how much I've read have been murdered suspiciously. Xaden has graduated, and like all the third years have graduated. Once they returned, it was like graduation day. This Varish guy is just making Vi's life hell. Also to note, this Varish guy has a psycho one-eyed orange dragon. He's like unhinged. On graduation day, you know, obviously most of the first years are scared of the dragons, so some of them stupidly try to run, and that's always bad. Like, the dragons will like torch them. And Varish's orange goes to torch these like 3 running first years, but he like waits until he's in the line of the formation of everybody else kind of like standing there, and he like blows them up, and it's like towards 4th wing. So Vi's like, everybody get down, and they like dive out of the way. But like people in 3rd wing were also kind of in line. They did not move fast enough, and half their squad got incinerated. So what an ass of a dragon, unhinged. And Torn was pissed because Vi almost got hurt, and apparently he, you know, Vi's dragon Torn has a past with this orange dragon. Don't remember the orange dragon's name. Is it Torn? Terran? And apparently Terran has a past with this orange dragon and had taken his eye. So don't know what the deal is with that. Then, because Vi and Xaden aren't living in the same place anymore, because Xaden gets stationed like on the front lines, which is, again, unusual for a first year like military person, like after graduation being stationed where there's a lot of action. I think it's because that guy wants him to die. But obviously Sigale and Terran can't be separated for that long, so Vi and Xaden are allowed leave of 2 days every 2 weeks, and they can like alternate their used days. So like one weekend Xaden will use his days to go see Vi, and the next weekend Vi will use her 2 days to see him, and then they alternate. But the thing is, it takes 8 hours to fly to each other. So they only have a few hours to be together for the dragons to be together, you know. Even though Vi and Xaden are still having their like romantic issues, they have these dumb arguments over and over again. Like, I'm really on Xaden's side. Vi's kind of annoying on this. She's like, you don't tell me everything. You keep secrets from me. And he's like, well, sometimes I have to keep secrets like it's a war, but like you can ask me any questions you want. You just have to, you know, have faith in me and like trust me and believe that I care about you and all this stuff. And she's like, no, I just want complete knowledge of everything that you know, and I just need to know everything. And I'm like, okay, bitch. I'm like, yeah, like in a normal situation, sure, but like this is a little different. He's a very high profile person, and you had your memories stolen from Dane, so you need to be able to resist his powers to even be trusted with any knowledge, right? So like, slow down, girl. Also, because like she knows all this stuff, she's keeping secrets from everybody else. Like, she's keeping secrets from Rhiannon and like that whole group, like the unmarked friends of hers. She's keeping secrets from Mira because she can't tell her that Brennan's alive, and she can't tell her what's really going on with like the real deal behind the war and all this stuff. So she's keeping a ton of secrets too. So it's like, why are you giving him such a hard time for having practical secrets, like keeping things on the DL to protect people when you're doing the same thing? So I find that kind of annoying, but whatever. Another thing that's going on in the plot, but like hasn't really been that impactful yet, is that Liam's little sister is a first year now. She survives crossing the bridge thing, and she sees Violet, and she hates Violet because she blames her for the death of her brother, which I can like kind of see, but whatever. Surprisingly, Sloane, Liam's sister, if that's her name, is not strong. She's not the stellar combat fighter superstar that Liam was. Vi made a promise to Liam as he was dying that she would take care of his sister. So Vi's trying to do her best to like help her out, but it's a little hard when the girl hates her. So that's going on, but it really hasn't been that big of a plot point. It's just like kind of here and there. It's like a kind of small thing. And then another first year that's interesting but hasn't been super impactful yet is this guy, Eric, who apparently is one of the king's sons. He's going by a false name, like he's going by Eric, but his name's really Cam. And Vi recognizes him because she's seen him at like, I don't know, the social events that her mother drags her to and all this stuff, and I guess they've been friends. So yeah, he's there. More gets revealed on him, but again, it's just like breadcrumbs, like it's barely anything at this point, 266 pages in. Okay, and then we kind of are just dealing with her trying to figure out what life is like being as a second year. It's not as interesting as being a first year. you know, the stakes just don't feel as high because they're kind of used to dying and they're less likely to die. But they're doing their assessments on the combat mats again, and Vi and her friends are chatting, and someone overhears Violet's name and is like, "Who's Violet?" This dude, right? He asks. And this girl Nadine, who has purple hair, jokingly says, "Oh, I'm Violet. See, can't you tell I have purple hair?" And the kid comes over to her and snaps her neck and kills her. And I'm like, what the heck? I thought that was gonna be something majorly important. I was like, who is this guy that just murdered her out of nowhere? That character doesn't even get named. He gets taken care of, like, I guess they murder him. I think Violet, like, was, like, fighting with him and whatever. He gets dealt with, killed, I guess. And it just turns out that, like, there are basically assassins trying to kill everybody that was at the war thing. And that's why those, like, 10 people who were there that I mentioned, 4 of them have died. Because there's been attacks on people's lives, like underhanded stuff. You know, it ended up not being that important. You just needed to know that they were being targeted. Another thing with that bearish guy is he's very arrogant. He desperately wants to see Andarna, Violet's golden dragon, who is no longer golden because she's like a teenage dragon now. And she's like off in the veil because she has to do like this deep, dreamless sleep to like mature properly. Like it's just a part of like the growing process for dragons. So she's off like trying to sleep and do that thing. So she's not around. And obviously she would look different. She's not golden anymore. She's like a black dragon. This Varish guy just really wants her there. He's just very bossy. And basically he's like, oh, if you don't bring Andarna here, there's gonna be consequences. And Vi's like, well, dragons don't take orders from humans. And Tarn is like, who the fuck does this guy think he is? Because Vi didn't bring Andarna. He ends up forcing her to use her powers over and over again at like training sessions. Like she has these one-on-one training sessions, but he's like forcing her to like use the lightning over and over and over again. And it's dangerous to use your power to that extreme level because it can lead to burnout. So she was like on the verge of burning out. She like almost died. Tarn had to like fly her into a frozen river just to like cool her down and save her and all this stuff. Okay, and then there's this other plot line going on where Vi's working with Jasenia, the scribe that's in the archive. Jasenia is an interesting character. I kind of imagine her looking like maybe Hispanic or like South American or even like native South American, but she speaks sign language. Surprisingly, a lot of characters speak sign language as well. Like, it's not a common thing to do, so when Violet sees somebody else, like Xaden, being able to sign to her, like, that's surprising. But yeah, I just think that's like an interesting detail. There's a lot of diversity in the story, which I really appreciate. A lot of different descriptions and names and like personalities, and yeah, I think it's a very diverse book. I mean, maybe not as much with like able-bodied stuff or like even like larger bodies. The only differently abled person is really Jasenia, but just in general, I'm like fairly pleased with the diversity in the story. But besides the point, Vi has been working with Jasenia to research how the wards work. So the way the world is, there's like magic coming from the center where the dragons live, I guess, and their power has this like force field that protects only till so far. And the humans try to expand that a little bit with these other like ward stones that are around, and it only protects the main country. The other country that they're warring with allegedly is outside of it. What the normal population is under the impression of is that the Paramel, the outside country, is like attacking them. I don't really know why they think that, what they think they're being attacked for, but like they're just attacking each other back and forth. But really the Paramel people are being brutalized by these like dark wielders, right? And they're only attacking the main country because they need supplies, these like magic weapons that have these runes and like special metals that have power in it to like fight back. Like the dark wielders aren't affected by normal weapons. They like need these particular weapons that they can only find in the main country. So they like raid and stuff. So yeah, like Vi's like researching the wards and like all that stuff, trying to find a way to charge up a different ward stone. So there's only one known working ward stone, but apparently there's one in the city that Xaden's from, like where the book kind of starts off where Vi gets healed. So she wants to be able to charge that one up, but nobody knows how they work. And there's not a good documented history. A lot of the books are like, this is the 7th edition, the 8th edition, and a lot of things have been redacted and stuff. So she's trying to figure that out. Rhiannon and Vi, their friendship has been strained because Vi's keeping all these secrets and Rhiannon knows something's up. Also, Rhiannon's like the squad leader, so congrats to her. And Bodhi, Xaden's cousin, is the wing leader, so good for him. Okay, and then we find out that Mira, Vi's sister, gets relocated to the same base that Xaden is stationed at. So Vi gets to see her, and she starts to try to like hint at the truth of like, hey, like what if the war isn't what we think it is? What if it's like Wyvern? And Mira's like, have you hit your head? Like, you need more sleep. She thinks it sounds ridiculous because she's only seen that in like the folklore tales that their dad used to tell them. And that's interesting too because that folklore book is one of a kind. And the archive where the scribes work at the War College is supposed to be like the most comprehensive source of like all things books, and they didn't have a copy. So it's like you can tell that books are being burned. Books are being burned. Things are being hidden, you know? Which is also crazy because that folklore book is the only thing that like is helpful for knowing the truth besides seeing it yourself. Then on page 201, I wrote down a quote because it was just so cute. We have Vi and Xaden cuddling in Xaden's bed at the base. They're not on good terms per se, but like they've decided not to fight this night. And Xaden says, "You love me." So Vi goes, "Stop reminding me." And Xaden replies, "Maybe you're not the one I'm reminding." And I just was like, my poor baby Xaden. He loves her so much, but like he also hasn't said it so directly, like, I love you. Like he's just said, you're the one I've fallen for. I've fallen for you. Like, and she's like insecure about that. She's like, he doesn't even tell me that he loves me. Like, why am I always the one having to make myself vulnerable first? Which, okay, like I can understand that. You know, it kind of sucks to always have to be the one to put yourself out there first. But he said he's fallen for you. Like, falling for you and being in love with you is like pretty synonymous. Unless you're on The Bachelor or Bachelorette. Vi's been avoiding Dane. She hates him now. He forces her to spar with him just so he can talk to her. Basically saying like, I didn't know that your lives are going to be in danger by me sharing that information from your memories with my dad. And she's like, I don't give a fuck. Fuck you. You suck. Get away from me. Don't talk to me. Don't touch me. Don't read my fucking memories. Go fuck yourself. And then he also said in that moment that Vi's mother is the one that gave Xaden those 107 scars on his back. If I haven't told you this, Xaden has 107 scars on his back as a trade for like being responsible for the 107 rebel children. So basically, Xaden made a deal with the government, allegedly Vi's mother and like the king or whatever, to take responsibility for the 107 rebel children, i.e. the scars on his back. And in return, the kids would get a chance to live by agreeing to go into the Riders Quadrant, which is very deadly, versus just being killed. But like, why are they gonna kill children? Like, that's effed up. But we're living in a fantasy world, right? So it gives them a chance to live even though the odds are not great. So yeah, basically Dane was claiming that the mother was the one that did the damage to Xaden, but it hasn't come up between Vi and Xaden at all, so intrigued by that. But like another just like little plot thing that's thrown in there randomly out of 100 other things that hasn't been fully addressed. Also, just a side note from me, I believe Dane. I don't think he knew that she was going to be attacked, even though he's like, I'll miss you. He claims that he just said that because he's like, you're choosing Xaden over me, but Vi thinks he said it because she thinks he thought that was going to be the last time he ever saw her again. But yeah, I kind of believe Dane, but I still don't like him. He's an asshole. Okay, and then the next interesting thing that really didn't get pushed further except for like a moment is that Eric/Cam, the prince, reveals to Vi privately that he knows the truth about the Wyvern and the Vernon Darkwielder people. And that's why he's there, trying to be a rider. And then also second years have to go through like torture practice. Varish is like giddy about it. He's like, yeah, I get to torture young people, super fun. He tries to get Dane to steal Vi's memories as a part of like the torturing, and she's like, if you touch me, you're gonna regret it. And Dane refuses to touch her, to steal her memories. So good for him. Is it because he likes following the rules? Because apparently, you know, you're not supposed to have students who are injured in the torture practice, and Vi has had her shoulder dislocated. She's like in a sling. So he refuses. So it's like, is he just following the rules or is he a decent person? And then Varish is pissed, so he punches Vi in her dislocated shoulder and she blacks out because he's a monster. But her squad, because it's like 4 of them, end up breaking out of the torture thing, which is like something that earns him a patch. It's like gets accolades and stuff, whatever. Then something actually fucking crazy happened. We're on page 239. There's been all this stuff going on in the background where like the Mender, it's like a writer who has powers. What's his name? I think his name's like Harlow or something. We're gonna call him Harlow. So this guy, Harlow, I think his name is, works at the school in the infirmary. He's a mender. So basically he's a rider. So he has a dragon and he has powers, and his powers are to heal the body. He's not like a healer, you know, because he can still kill people and stuff if he wants to, because he's a warrior at the end of the day, he's a rider. But he has these magic healing powers. And he's healed Vi a bunch of times her whole life. But the weird thing is he's been looking ragged. Like he looks like he's been working so hard. It just doesn't make sense with like how many students are going to him for help, and like he's like really busy all the time, and like there's like a month-long wait list to see him and all this stuff, and it's like very strange. And Varish is always like skulking around corners with him, and they're going into secret rooms together and all this stuff. Turns out Varish was having the Mender guy heal Jack Barlow. Jack fucking Barlow. The guy from the first book that was constantly trying to kill Vi. Like, trying to kill her from day one crossing the bridge thing. The last time we saw him, he was attacking Liam in one of the other war challenge games, and Vi, like, shot lightning at him. That was, like, the first time she used her lightning. Broke open a mountain, and the rocks crushed him, and he was dead. He, like, allegedly dead. And then Vi saved Liam, right? Like, they caught him out of the air. That was, like, the last time we saw this Jack Barlow guy, this a-hole. Now he's healed, and he just walks into class, and the professors are like, oh, welcome your classmate back, he's here. And I'm like, what? First off, he's a psychopath, and I don't know why, if he was like basically dead, they would go and save him. Like, he was at the bottom of a mountain, crushed, and they read his name off on the death roll, I'm pretty sure. I assume so, which is pretty definito as far as the school goes. So I don't know why they would put so much effort into saving him when they let all the other kids just die all the time. So very confused by that. I hope that evolves into something purposeful besides just making Vi have another enemy. I was shooketh, okay? I was shooketh when that happened. Okay, and then the last thing I'll say on page 255, Vi thinks that Xaden has gotten hurt in like a skirmish on the front lines, based on like their battle brief class, and like her professor kind of hinting at her that like someone was like really severely injured, and she hints that it's Xaden. So Vi's like, I gotta go, and she and Tarn take off to go to his base to see if he's okay or not. Not during her leave time, so she does not have permission to leave, but she doesn't care. They don't care, they just go. Turns out Xaden is fine. He's completely fine. He got healed. He had like a horrible like gash in his arm. Like, it was described as being like 3 inches thick and like puckered and stuff, but you could tell that a mender had healed it. But like, I can't imagine, like my arm is like 3 inches wide. Like, I can't imagine a gash that thick. They kind of have another stupid argument, and then they sleep together. Then they hook up all the way. They go all the way. They home run in the shower. So that happened. And then Xaden's like, hey, do you want to do a drop with me? I have to drop off these weapons for the poor male people. Do you want to come? And she's like, heck yeah, I want to come. And when they do that, Vi sees his ex, Catriona, who's like a Griffin Rider, and the sister of like the leader of the Griffin Rider people. Don't know how they had a relationship, but she kind of like heard about this Catriona person from Bodhi slipping up and mentioning her name. So of course she's like all insecure and like whatever. And she's like, what's with this Catriona girl? And Xaden's like, that was well before I ever met you. Like, don't worry about it. I'm all in on you, you know, whatever. Then also during that whole exchange with the weapons, there was a conversation between the Griffin Riders and Xaden that hinted at a way to make more weapons. So there's like this tool at the school that they need to make the weapons, but this other rich guy also has the tools to make the weapons, but he's shitty, so he doesn't want to give it to them, but he's willing to let them use it for like a trade. And in return, he wants Vi to demonstrate her powers. Xaden doesn't want to tell her this at first, but she's like, just tell me, clearly it involves me. You know, it was all hush hush. And she's like, just tell me what it is. And he's like, well, he wants to see your powers. And Vi's like, oh, that seems easy. Like, why don't we just do it so we can get the tool that we need to make the weapons? And he's like, well, this guy's kind of shady. Like, he doesn't really play fair, and he's definitely not going to want to just see your powers. He's going to want to keep you in his collection. And he's like, I don't want to risk you. And she's like, well, it's not your risk to take. And that's pretty much where I left off. So Vi has to go back to the school. I'm sure Vera's just gonna be so happy that she broke the rules so he can like torture her or like make her life hell some other way. He's just creepy. He's just like this evil man who's just always just too happy.
Got me sobbing over Liam again. It's like 2:30 in the fucking morning and I'm reading. I gotta curse less. I'll tell you more later. So much freaking happened since I last spoke to you, but I can't go into it too much. It's the whole torturing thing and Liam like being there with Violet and she thinks she's hallucinating, but like he's gotta be there like as a ghost. I'll talk to you when I'm coherent, but he has me sobbing again.
All right, I have updates for you on Iron Flame. A lot has happened. The action and the excitement has finally picked up. So the big things that I have to update you on start with Violet telling her friends everything. So all the people in her squad and her year, so it's like Rhiannon, Riddick, Sawyer, she tells them everything. She tells them about Aretia or Aretia, whatever you call it, where Xaden's from, and like the rebellion effort and the truth about what happened when Liam died, and they believe her. Apparently the dragons all know the truth, but they don't choose to tell their riders because they have their own like dragon politics and stuff, so that's why it isn't so straightforward with all the humans knowing the truth of the war. There was some kind of like regular school event, some kind of challenge or whatever, and Violet was supposed to be switching with Aya to guard or like oversee. I don't know. Aya was one of the women that was at the Resin battle and one of the people that was getting targeted for assassinations. Turns out the two of them are under attack again while they're up on the roof by assassins, like these infantry guys. It's like four soldiers trying to kill them. Aya doesn't make it. She gets killed, which is sad. So there's not that many left of them that were at the battle. Violet gets like thrown from the roof. She's like holding onto the roof. To be honest, the description of this scene I couldn't imagine because they're like trying to say the roof is a certain shape and she's like sliding backwards. It didn't make sense visually in my mind. I like to see what's happening and I just couldn't picture it. But she's about to be thrown off. All of a sudden her attacker gets like stabbed through the throat. And it's Jack Barlow who saves her. I'm like, what? He's had like some weird personality shift. Like he's being really nice to everybody. It's confusing. I'm like, what's going on with him? I know he got like this second chance at life or whatever, and he's trying to say like, oh, now we're even. She's like, okay. And she's like, I don't think his math is good because I killed him and then he saves me. Like that doesn't make sense. That's not mathing. It's like she feels like she owes him 2 lives now, but like she doesn't trust him, obviously. I don't know. I'm very curious about this Jack thing, but I don't trust him. And then because Violet's been trying to figure out how the wards work so she can activate the dead ward stone at Arisha, the place where Xaden's from. I'm gonna call it Arisha from now on. I don't know what to call it in real, I don't know. She's been trying to like research these old books. Her friend Jasenia has been helping her. Now she has her squad mates helping her research. And she's like, we need something from the original 6 riders, which are like, I don't know, the founding fathers of this country. Jasenia finds out that there's like some secret chamber in the archives where it could be. And the only way to get in there is if someone from the royal line can like pass through the wards. Lucky for them, they have the prince who has snuck out and is, you know, posing as somebody else to become a rider. So she goes to him for help. Xaden finds out, he's pissed, but like he's kind of forced to go along with it. He keeps trying to like protect her, right? Which becomes like an issue further along. Long story short, they sneak into the archives, they find the journal, they run out within the nick of time. Like I thought they were gonna fucking die because after a certain time, the archive doors close and whatever magic preserves all the books will kill anyone locked in there. So they were almost locked in and almost killed. But they get it. They get 2 journals from 2 different original writers. She gives one to Xaden and he takes off and she's still holding on to the other one. She's like just like so excited that she got away with it or whatever. And then all of a sudden, Nolan, who's the mender, he's like a dragon rider, but he has the power to heal people, sees her. They have a good relationship. They've known each other for a long time. But he's like, what do you have? Like, you're carrying a scribe bag. Like, it's a different color. It's like beige instead of black. He poisons her without her knowing because she trusts him. He obviously doesn't question her before he gives her the drink. He's like, here, have something to drink. She's like, okay. And it's the drink that takes their powers away for a temporary amount of time. And she's like, why did you betray me? What's going on? And he's like, you're breaking the rules, da 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 da. And he takes her to Varish, and Varish puts her into the barracks for her to get tortured. And they're like, what are you doing with this journal? Why are you trying to figure out the wards? You're trying to turn off the wards so that the enemy can invade and all this stuff. She refuses to speak. And obviously, luckily, she's been going through all this like torture practice, which is like one of their courses is like how to withstand torture and like interrogations and stuff. So she doesn't say shit. But Varish is breaking her arm, breaking her ribs, breaking her ankles, her fingers, punching her in the face. She is beaten brutally by this grown fucking man. He's a he's supposed to be a teacher, but I guess like he sees her as the enemy, but I don't know. I was just like, holy shit, okay? And this is where you catch me crying. So it's been days. She's been tortured for days. Her squad apparently has been trying to find her. Xaden has flown off, so I don't think he really knows what's going on. It's not really confirmed if he knows. She's like hoping that he figures it out by the time it becomes Saturday, which would have to be a whole week of her being locked up and tortured. Plus, like every time she's like totally broken physically, Nolan will just heal her and then Varish will go ahead and break her bones again and stuff. Oh my God, it was like so tragic. So she's like lying on this wooden bed and she sees Liam. And Liam is dead. Liam died in the first book, obviously, right? And she's like, oh, like my brain is just hallucinating, da da da. And he's like, no, I'm really here. Like, Malik sent me to be by your side. And I was like, ah! I was like, no. Like, I love Liam. And I'm like, why do you keep doing this to me? I can't ever move on, you know? He's just so sweet and supportive and just trying to encourage her and keep her spirits up and her, you know, determined to not break and tell Varish what he wants to hear and like all this stuff. And just love him. And then Varish admits to Violet that he's using her as a lure to try to get Xaden to show up because Xaden's the real person he wants to torture and get information from because obviously Xaden has a lot of influence and he's like leading a lot of stuff. It's just Varish doesn't have any proof and Varish would have an excuse to keep Xaden prisoner because if Xaden shows up, he'd be breaking his leave and like disobeying orders and stuff like that. Obviously, Violet can't talk to her dragon Tarn because of this poison. They keep like giving it to her. Even though he can't speak with her, he definitely knows what's going on. She's like, oh, you know, I might not be able to talk to my dragon, but my dragon is definitely out there looking for your dragon so he can kill him, thus killing you. And I was like, hell yeah, that is so clever. I was like, that is so smart. Okay, and then Varish ups the ante and brings Dane to Violet, right? He's like, Dane, don't be alarmed with who this prisoner is, but they're a traitor. They're trying to destroy the country and like help the enemy and all this stuff. And Dane's like, what's going on? And he's like, what? This is Violet? Obviously, Dane is a memory reader, so Varish wants Dane to steal her memories. Dane has been getting stronger at this skill, and it's not just like the most recent memories. So he's convinced, right? Like Varish has convinced him, and Violet's like, fuck, you know. He's gonna see everything, and he's not gonna trust me. And Liam is like, Violet, show him what he needs to know. Like, force him to see the truth. So as soon as he touches her, even though she is physically destroyed, she's like, I am mentally strong. And she pulls him, like once he touches her, she pulls him into the memory of that battle where Liam dies and like sees the wyvern, sees the vermin, sees how they destroy the land and suck the magic from everything and kill people and are the true enemy to everybody, right? They're just like horrible. And how they killed Liam's dragon and how Liam died and like how Violet almost died and all that stuff. At first, Dane does not seem convinced. He's going along with what Varish says, and it looks like Dane's gonna kill Violet, like he has this dagger, and he's like putting it up to Violet's throat, and you're like, no! And Violet's like, no! I'm like, no, he definitely believes her. And he turns and he stabs Varish, and I'm like, yes! Because the whole thing with Dane reading her memories previously and then running to his father and all that stuff, like that was really not a good move, because he's such a fucking goody two-shoes or whatever. But I don't think he truly meant to hurt her. And when he said that, like, I believed him. I just still thought he was an asshole. So I knew he still cared about her, and I knew he was a good person at the end of the day. He's just kind of stupid. So then Violet and Dane are trying to escape the prison, and they open the door. And standing there is Xaden and some of the other marked people and stuff, and there's just pandemonium going around like the school. Like things are in chaos, people are getting murdered, the teachers are flying off because there's been some kind of emergency. Turns out the emergency is that Xaden has taken some dead wyvern that he's recently killed and like dropped them at the bases along the border to prove that this is actually happening. He's like, I'm done keeping it a secret. Violet was in danger. Like, I needed to make a big move to clear out the school. So a lot of the teachers were trying to like cover that up. Not all of them. Some of them stayed. So then before they leave the jail cell thing, Xaden helps Violet finish Varish off because he wasn't like completely dead. So they like take the dagger and they like slowly stab him in the heart and make sure that he's dead. And I was like, yes! As they're like walking up the stairs to leave, they run into Violet's mom, the general, and you're like, oh shit, what's gonna happen? And her mom claims that she kept everything a secret because it was safer. Like she was trying to protect her family and like protect the people of the country. And Violet's basically like, at what cost? You know, like other people are dying and you're just lying and all this stuff. And the mom's like, I would make the same choice again. Like you would know if you had your own children, all this stuff, right? She's trying to like validate her choices. And I'm like, okay, like to a degree, like I can kind of understand where she's coming from, but it's still messed up. So Dane is aligned to go with Violet and Xaden. He's not going to stick around. And Violet's like, we need to offer everybody else at the school an opportunity to know the truth and decide for themselves if they want to be on the right side of this war. So they set up an assembly. They make this huge announcement. Tarn takes the memory of the battle and shares it to everybody so they can know for themselves. And then the dragons that feel like telling the truth can confirm with their riders, like, yes, this is true. Some of the dragons choose to still like deny. So not all the riders are on the same page, but I'd say about half of the riders agree to leave with Violet and Xaden and like that whole group and go to Orisha. Some of the professors also agree to go, and they knew the truth, but they were like, we were just waiting to join the rebellion and now we have the chance. Like, whatever. I was like, that's pretty dope. Like, I liked some of those professors, so I'm glad they're not evil. So that was about 100 riders and 200 dragons fly to Orisha. And then that was the end of part 1. And we move into part 2. So I was like, damn, finally some freaking action. Once the action is going, I'm like, this book is so fun. This author is very talented. Like, I'm on the edge of my freaking seat. You know what I mean? Okay, so at the start of part 2, Andarna wakes up. She's an adolescent dragon, you know, the golden dragon or whatever. She's black in color now, but because of her like weird growth and for how long she was in this like dreamless sleep, she hasn't developed properly. So her wings are like malformed. So that's kind of sad. So she won't be able to have a rider on her back ever. I think that's fine as like a plot thing. Like as long as she can eventually learn how to fly, because it's going to be hard for her to fly. I don't think it matters as a plot point that much because Tarn is like Violet's main dragon anyway, but I am curious to see how Andarna impacts the plot going forward. She's been kind of sidelined for most of this book. And then because Vi has at least one of the journals, because Xaden took one with him to give to Brennan because she thought Brennan might be able to translate it. Turns out he can't translate it, but Violet can translate it, and Jasenia. Oh, also some of the scribes went. There were like 4 scribes, including Jasenia, that left with the riders to go to Orisha. So Violet and Jasenia are trying to translate the journal to figure out how to activate the ward stone. From what she translates, it says something about an iron rain and like needing the blood of 6 riders, like the 6 best riders. So she's like, oh, easy peasy. We're just gonna get the 6 best riders that live here and we're gonna have them cut their hands and put their hands on the stone and it should turn on. And I'm like, that would be really lame if that's how the stone turned on. For how well guarded the book was, for the thing to be that basic, like it just didn't seem like good magic. And fortunately for the plot, that didn't work. I hope it's more interesting than that. Violet's like pissed that it didn't work. So she's like, okay, well, I need to do something. I'm like letting down all these people. She's like, I'm gonna make a deal with that Viscount who's been wanting me to show off my lightning power in exchange for the luminary thing. And the luminary thing is like the tool that makes like the specialized weapons that can kill the vermin. Like not just any ordinary weapon can kill them. So they really need this tool. And they previously only had access to a different luminary. There's not that many of them, because there was one at Bagsgiath, the school. So like they would smuggle it, like the marked kids would smuggle it out of the school. But now that they've obviously deserted, they don't have access to the one at the school anymore, so they need another one. And the only other known luminary is with this Viscount guy, this rich guy. So Violet's like, okay, Xaden is being a controlling, protective ass, and he refuses to work with that guy because he's scared that the guy's gonna try to keep Violet permanently and be like sneaky and underhanded and stuff. And Violet's like, well, I gotta do something. So she sneaks off with her siblings to fly there, and she tells her dragon, don't tell your wife that we're going. And he's like, fine, I won't tell her. As soon as they leave, like Sigil, Tarn's mated dragon, can sense that they're on the move, so Xaden and Sigil changed course to whatever they were doing. They like beat them to the palace where the Viscount lives, and Xaden's pissed. And Violet's like, oh my god. Oh. She's like, I'm just trying my best here. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, whatever. I didn't do what you wanted, but like, she has agency. Oh, also I forgot to mention, side note, Violet now has a new teacher to try to help her with her power, because apparently striking lightning out of the sky is like kind of extreme, and she doesn't have any useful control, like baby steps kind of control over her power, like shooting it out of her hands. She's kind of just doing like the most immediately, which isn't really good for learning, apparently, according to this guy. All the other cadets that are there are now going back to classes, but just at Orisha. So all the professors have kind of resumed their classes, and they're telling them more facts about like the truth behind the real war and all this stuff. So the kids are still being able to learn and like grow as riders and such. Okay, so back to the Viscount's place. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it's like white marble, glass, everything. And Xaden's like, oh, you know, they have like a garden, and like watch out for these like water feature pools like on the floor. You know, it's not good if you've been drinking. And Violet's like, why is he so familiar with this place? And she asks him, she's like, why do you know this place so well? Like, how often have you been here? And he's like, oh, I haven't been keeping count. Sorry, this ray of light is really all up in my face. The Viscount shows up and he's like, ooh, Violet, I'm so happy that you're here. I finally get to meet you. And then he's like, we can't talk business until dinner. And also you have to dress appropriately for dinner. And he's like, Kat, can you help our guests get ready for dinner? And it's Kat, Xaden's ex-girlfriend. And Vi's like, oh, no wonder he's so familiar with this place. His ex lives here. And Kat is the niece to the Viscount. So Violet's pissed. Violet and Xaden have this argument, and Xaden's like, why don't you get ready in my room? Because he has like a permanent room in this palace. And she's like, I want to go to your fucking room. And I'm thinking to myself, you probably fucked Kat in that room. Like, why would she want to go in that room with you? And she's like, no, I'm going to stick with my sister. You know, they're having this argument about like Xaden never wanting her to be here, that he was going to try to find another way. He just wants to keep her safe. He just wants to protect her. And Violet's like, you wouldn't have acted like this last year. Like, you encouraged me to figure out things on my own. And like, I faced threshing and the gauntlet, and my life was in danger on those things, but like, you never interfered. And he's like, well, that was before I was in love with you. And she's like, you just keep trying to protect me, and like, I can do what I need to do. And he's like, I just want to keep you safe. Like, I'm in love with you. Da 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 da. And he's like, you know who you sound like? You sound just like Dane. And I was like, ah! I was like, no! Oh, that was such a good fucking burn, and it was so true. Like, Xaden does sound just like Dane. He's like, I just want to protect you. Da da. And he's just smothering her. I'm like, she is a rider. She is a badass fighter. She has like helped you kick off this rebellion. Well, I mean, he's been doing a lot of work for many years, but like, she's pivotal, and she's very powerful with her signet power and all this stuff, even though she still needs to figure it out. She's bonded to like one of the most powerful dragons in the realm. It's like, Jesus, give her some credit. She's not like a China doll that's gonna break. I'm very entertained. I'm like having so much fun again. Hi, it's Sunday, 2 days before the release of Onyx Storm, and I've finished Iron Flame. I actually finished it last night. Let me first give a quick disclaimer. I'm really uncomfortable. I tweaked my neck so bad last night while I was sleeping that I can barely move my head to the right. So I'm facing this way and then looking at you to the left so I can be as comfortable as possible. So yeah, I'm not gonna be necessarily as peppy as I normally am. So let's get into this update. This is from page 390 to 622, the end. I skipped a big chunk in the middle and didn't bother to take notes on it because it really wasn't that important. Okay, like, it slowed down the pace, and I didn't feel like you needed updates on all the minutia. So we'll just hit the big major moments. Okay, so where we left off, Violet called Xaden out on acting like Dane, being way overprotective. They talk, they get over it for the time being. They go to the dinner with the Viscount. He apparently agrees to only begin negotiations to get this luminary tool once Violet demonstrates her power, which is really shady. Like, that doesn't really make sense to me to start I'll agree to maybe do a negotiation if you show me. Like, that's bullshit. Stupid. But they agree. She goes down into this field and there's this cabinet. Okay, so it's like a wardrobe and whatever's inside will be hovering. And apparently there's a venin inside, like one of the evil creature people. The Viscount's people like run off and they're like, here, deal with this thing, stop it. Xaden's not allowed to help her, so she has to like survive. Her siblings are there, they kind of help her a little bit, but she's able to throw her daggers, like she's fighting him for a while. But the key part is that she throws her daggers into the evil guy's feet, like the venin guy's feet, locking him in place on the ground for like a second. It's raining, which is imperative to know. And then she lightning strikes the ground because she sucks at aiming. And because it's raining, he gets electrocuted at the same time. But like Violet and her siblings don't get electrocuted because like her siblings run off and then her dragon with perfect timing like snatches her off the ground. So she doesn't get electrocuted from her own attack. So they deal with that, and the Viscount's like, okay, well, fine, you pass. And Xaden's pissed. He's like strangling him, understandably so, because he threatened the life of the woman that he loves. And then they get into this agreement where they can have the luminary tool to make the weapons in exchange for the specialized weapons that they can make with it. Like, I don't think the Viscount can make the runes that are required for these weapons to kill the bad guys. And runes are like these magical symbols that get imbued with power, right? So he like has the tool to make the weapons, but he can't make the runes. So he trades the already runed, imbued weapons for his tool. And he's been protecting some of the Griffin flyers at his like castle estate because their like flyer academy school had been destroyed in an attack. So they'd been all living with him. It's like 100 of them or something. And he requests that Xaden and the gang bring all of those Griffin flyers back with them to Orisha. So they agree, but it's not going to be great because the Griffin Flyers and the Dragon Riders haven't been getting along for centuries, even though it's been kind of a misunderstanding. There's been a lot of like bloodshed on both sides. For whatever reason, they are like climbing this mountain to get back to Orisha instead of flying. I guess because like the Griffins can't withstand the altitude to get over this mountain, so they have to climb it. The Dragon Rider student cadets are also climbing it as like a bonding experience. I don't know, it was very strange. Did I tell you? I told you about Cat, right? Did I tell you about Cat being betrothed? Also, I forgot to mention really quick, the Cat chick that is like Xaden's ex, they were previously betrothed. For like political reasons. Xaden didn't love her or anything, but he was definitely sleeping with her. Cat has this power where she can enhance the emotions of people. So when Violet's feeling like kind of agitated or annoyed or insecure, like then she becomes enraged and like totally like down on herself and like hates herself. Like it just skyrockets because Cat is manipulating her emotions. So not cool. But anyway, back to them climbing this mountain. Cat's being a bitch. She's the worst. Oh my God, she's so jealous that Vi is with Xaden. Eventually find out like she doesn't actually love Xaden. She just wants him for his like crown because he's the heir to Orisha, whatever. She wants it for political power, and she doesn't have any respect for Vi. So while they're climbing this mountain, Wyvern come and attack everybody. I think there was maybe like 2. Vi, of course, she's the main character. She has to be the hero. She jumps on Taryn's back, her dragon, and takes advantage of like the cloud coverage because they were pretty high up. There's like clouds and stuff. And shoots lightning into the cloud because again, she can't aim while the Wyvern are passing through it trying to chase her and like electrocutes them and they die. So good on her, successful. I'm making this super short because there's a lot that happened. And then they come to find out that a baby dragon has been born at Orisha, which is a big deal because it makes that land now like a hatching ground, which is very magical. So they feel this wave of like magical power pass through them. Don't know what that means in the long run. It hasn't really affected anything in this book, but maybe it'll matter in book 3. And then life just continues on. I mean, the teachers are teaching, the flyers are trying to like integrate. There's a lot of fighting between the riders and the flyers. They're trying to get along. They do some other kind of like school challenge thing. They're like hunting for these runes to work on their skills with them. And in the process of like looking for one in a cave, it's like Vi, Cat, and like some of her friends are put on a team together. Solus, that evil guy who tortured Vi, Varish, his dragon has been hiding in that cave, the one-eyed dragon, and he starts attacking them. Luckily, Vi and Kat are able to blind him in his other eye, so now he can't see at all. Both his eyes are out. And then Andarna was with them, the littler dragon, and she's able to finish him off, so good on her. Though apparently it's kind of like a mark on the soul when a dragon has to kill another dragon, so Taryn is a little sad for her, but also proud of her for handling her business. And then in bigger news, Vi finds out that Xaden likely has 2 signet powers because he's a direct descendant of his dragon's last rider. Xaden told Vi previously that Sigil's previous rider was like his grandfather or something, or his great-grandfather. I think it was his great-grandfather. I don't remember. She kind of finds out through conversation with some of her colleagues because they ask her like, oh, will you get 2 signets because you have 2 dragons? And she's like, oh, I've never thought of that before. And they were like, oh yeah, sometimes people can get 2 signet powers when they're a descendant of their dragon's previous rider. And she's like, well, wait a second. I know Xaden is the direct descendant of his dragon's previous rider, but I think it's kind of on the DL because most people think Xaden's dragon's previous rider was like his great uncle, so not a direct descent, even though that's still maybe by, I don't know. But he hasn't shown any second power, right? He's keeping it on the DL. So she confronts him and she's like, what is your second power? Why are you lying? You're always keeping secrets from me. And that's like the overarching thing with this book is that there's a lot of secrets being kept and Vi just can't stand the secrets, but I'm like, people are usually keeping secrets for a good reason, okay? She has her fair share of secrets, and I'm like, why are you so butthurt all the time? It's a little annoying. Vi, in the first book, I really liked her. I found her super fun, and she made decisions that maybe I would want to make as the hero in a story and things like that. She's just been way more unbearable with her relationship with Xaden, just so annoying and whiny. She's very whiny about it, which is annoying. But whatever, she confronts him, asking him what's the deal, but an emergency starts happening. There's like an attack coming. They need to address that, so he doesn't get a chance to tell her, and you can tell he doesn't want to tell her. So they're dealing with this emergency. Vi's like, I gotta figure out this wardstone thing ASAP, even though I got it wrong the first time. She's been able to translate it with some help from Dane, who also knows this dead language that the journal with all the information is written in. And they've come to the conclusion that they need 6 different dragon breeds to shoot fire at the stone, which makes way more sense. Like, of course, it's the dragons that would power a magic stone, right? They're the magical creatures. That's where all the magic's coming from. So they do that. They're hoping that the wardstone works, and they see like the swarm of venom and wyvern like coming to attack their city. 2 of them pass through and they immediately fall to their death, right? So the wards are working. But later down the line, you find out through a conversation with Vi and her mom during this like negotiation that will come up that the wards are only partially working, and when they go to check the 2 dead wyvern that fell, they have like some kind of rune stones in them. Like they cut them open and there's like a rune stone in it, and then the other one wakes up all of a sudden and they like freak out, and Vi like shoots her lightning at him and luckily hits him and he kills it. But like very sus, like the wyvern could be reanimated, like their wards aren't strong enough. The general of the main country, Navarre, Vi's mom and some other like war people want to have a meeting with the rebellion people because there's this big battle that's going to happen. The thing with the general is that he can see the outcomes of the battles and he knows he's going to lose this battle. So he's like, I need your help because in the battle that I see, you're not there. So I'm trying to figure out what to do to change the fate of this battle. They're like, fuck you. You don't help anybody else, and now that your country's in danger, you want us to help you? Like, we're not down. Mind you, Vi's like, that's so messed up. Like, innocent civilians are gonna die, and that's kind of like the whole point of the rebellion is to help the innocent people and not just leave them out to dry. So she's not down for that. But the other people in the assembly, like the powerful people of the rebellion, don't want to help. Like Brennan, her brother, doesn't want to help. Xaden wants to help, but they had a vote and they chose not to help. That's the whole conversation where Vi's mom told her, like, your wards aren't fully working. Then Vi and Xaden finally get a chance to catch up on this whole, like, second signet conversation. He clearly does not want to tell her what his power is. He's like, stop digging, stop asking, like, you're gonna hate me, you're gonna fall out of love with me in, like, 1 second. And she's like, just tell me. And she's, like, trying to guess what it is. And, oh my God, my neck hurts so bad. My head is, like, falling to the side. He eventually kind of confesses that it's a mind reading kind of power, and he has to keep it secret because whenever someone has like a mind reading related power, leadership tends to kill them immediately. Like Dane has a mind reading power, but he has to touch the person so they feel like they have some control over how it can be used against them. But if someone doesn't need to touch you and can read your mind, they like are killed immediately. Xaden's not reading actual thoughts, but he's able to read people's intentions, which is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And Violet's like, oh my god, this is tragic. Like, how dare you? Have you been reading my intentions? Like, I feel, oh. I'm like, bitch, oh my god, it's really not that serious. If you always have good intentions, what does it matter? Like, what could her intentions ever be that he would read them and then, like, use them against her? And then plus, like, the Griffin flyers, they don't have the same kind of level of powers as the Dragon Riders. Like, they're not as powerful, but they tend to have mind manipulation powers, like how I said with Kat. I know they don't like the flyers, but, like, they're not offing each other just because they have mind powers. So, like, this whole hatred on, like, mind reader things is, like, really exclusive to the Riders things. Like, they hate them. So for good reason, Xaden has been keeping it a secret. And Vi, again, she's mad. She's like, why have you been keeping this a secret from me? Why would you keep it a secret? And I'm like, for his safety? Maybe your safety too? Like, give him a fucking break. Like, Jesus Christ. Xaden's all insecure. He's like, see, it took you less than a minute to fall out of love with me. But she's like, no, I'll love you forever. And she's like, can you love someone and not want to be with them at the same time? And I'm like, bitch. She makes problems out of almost nothing. Like, she wants to have relationship problems with him. And I know, like, it's a fantasy romance, so, like, if you're gonna keep following the same couple, there has to be issues to keep the story interesting. But I'm like, Vi, you're just making issues, okay? Anyway, now we get into the big battle scene for the whole book. And this is, like, the battle that the generals saw them losing. So Vi's, like, trying to convince them we should go help them. Some people are, like, down to help. But for some reason, Vi has this thought, and I cannot, for the life of me, figure out how she came to this conclusion. The Venin and the Wyvern are, like, all congregated around this border base, I guess, that the riders have called Samara. So they're all over there, like, kind of far away. It looks like they're gonna attack Samara. That's what the general has seen. He's seen them attack Samara and them lose. But Vi's like, wait, that's a distraction. They're actually not gonna attack that. They're gonna attack the war college, Bagsgiath, like where this whole series started. She's like, no, they're actually gonna attack there. That's where their wardstone is, so it should be the most protected. Like, that's where the shield is emanating from. You know, that's where it, like, clouds over everything else. She's like, no, they're gonna attack the school. And I'm thinking to myself, like, the whole point of the shield is that they can't come through the shield, so why would they be there? Like, how would they be in the center, like, attacking them? I have no idea how she comes to this conclusion, but she does. And she's able to convince everybody else somehow. They're just like, yeah, we just go with what Vi thinks because she just tends to be right. I'm like, okay. I texted Eliza, because she finished the book too, and I was trying to ask her, like, how did she know? But Eliza hasn't gotten back to me yet, so I still have no fucking idea. So Vi and a couple of the other riders decide to fly out to the war college. Vi meets up with her mom and is like, there's going to be an attack here, not at the place where the general thinks. And the mom's like, why? And Vi's like, they're gonna attack the wardstone here. The mom's like, no, they're not. And she's like, it's totally fine. What are you talking about? And Vi insists, she's like, we need to check. And she's like, okay, fine. So they go down where the wardstone is hidden underground. This is very strange. Like, the wardstone needs to be exposed to the outside, but it's also, like, underground. So I guess there's, like, a big chimney chute. I don't know. It's very strange. I can't perfectly picture it. So whatever. They go down there, and the mom's like, see, it's guarded. But the two guards that are there, only two guards, they're dead. Ugh. And Jack Barlow's there with his dragon at the wardstone. I was like, what the fuck is Jack doing here? Like, I knew Jack was sus this whole time, but, like, what is going on? He gets up on his dragon. Mind you, their wardstone is, like, on fire. It's got, like, an iron flame, right? The one that isn't working properly that Vi tried to get going doesn't have its own flame. So you know it's, like, slightly off. Jack takes his dragon, like, leans the dragon, forces the dragon over top of the stone where the fire's coming out, and then stabs the dragon through the neck, killing his own dragon. And the dragon's blood, like, spews onto the stone, extinguishing the fire. I don't know, like, the rules of the magic of, like, why he had to kill the dragon to extinguish, like, how did he know he had to kill the dragon with the blood to extinguish the fire? I don't know how he knew, but apparently it worked, and then the stone, like, falls over and breaks, and then the wards are down for the whole country. And then the attack starts happening, and shit ensues. So at first, reading all that, I was confused, because I was like, why has Nolan been helping Jack Barlow if he knew he was, like, evil? I was confused. I was very confused. But it becomes clear in a second, because turns out Jack is a Venin. His eyes are all red, which are, like, a distinguishing feature of these bad guys. Okay, so with the Venin, the lore around them is that they are jealous of the riders and the flyers, right? So the riders get their powers from the dragons, and the flyers get their powers from their griffins. And Venin don't have, like, a being to give them power. So they're somehow sucking power from the earth, which is a big no-no. It like messes with the balance of everything in this world. And like once they like suck the power out, like it's like dead. Like it's barren land once they suck it dry. So it's a big no-no. Plus it kind of corrupts them mentally. So Jack is that. You find out kind of later, it's like in a header of one of the chapters as like a note from Nolan to Vi's mom that I kind of didn't connect the dots with until I talked to Eliza about it. But apparently Nolan had been protecting Jack because he thought they could find a cure for being a Venin, but Nolan has come to the conclusion that no, it's impossible. It's impossible. Nolan writes, "We have tried every method we know of as you requested. There is no cure. There is only control." So, yikes. The big battle starts happening. And Jack, like, initially survives the death of his dragon because he's a Venin. Like, he doesn't need the dragon's power. Because usually if your dragon dies, the rider dies. But he didn't die right away. He had his whole, like, villain speech. And he confessed that, like, yeah, there are Venin, like, living within the main country of Navarre. You guys just don't know. And, like, we can still have power under the wards. We're just not as strong. And I'm like, oh, God, that's, like, really bad news. You know, if the evil guys that have been terrorizing this whole continent are able to sneak into the wards and still have some level of power, like, that's a big deal. They end up taking Jack prisoner because they want to get more information out of him. So as the battle is happening, Violet does some badass stuff. One of the main guys in her squad, Sawyer, gets his leg bitten off, but Vi saves him. The Griffin flyers are like helping out as well. Then Jasenia, the scribe, who's been trying to translate the other journal to see where they went wrong, because they have two journals, but they're translated in different languages, and Vi can't read the other one. Goes to Vi, like in the middle of the battle, while Vi's like on the ground and not in the sky, and is like, this other journal is saying that we need 7 dragons, but there's only like 6 known breeds of dragons. So they're like, how are we gonna get 7 breeds when they don't exist to fire this ward back up? The ward stone's been broken, but apparently Brennan, Vi's brother, who's a mender, he like heals people's broken bodies, is somehow able to mend broken objects also, so he heals the stone and is piecing it back together. So when she goes to run to the stone, she sees that it's reconstructed, and she's like, we need 7 dragons, 7 dragon breeds. She goes to Andarna, her secondary dragon, and apparently Andarna isn't actually a black dragon. And it's been kind of hinted at because she's like kind of reflective in a different way. She catches the light in different ways. So I don't know if she's like iridescent. I don't think it was like super laid out, but she's not a black dragon. She's like a breed of her own. She's like one of a kind. And the thing with Andarna too is like her parents are gone, so we don't know like her lineage. But it doesn't matter. She's different. The stone needs to be imbued with power in order to work, like for the runes to work, I guess. So Violet's like trying to imbue it with her own power by herself. And it's draining her, like it's killing her, but she's like trying her best. The original stone that she powered up that was kind of like slightly off took multiple riders weeks to imbue with enough power, and she's trying to do it by herself in one go. So she's dying. But Vi's mom like kicks her off the stone. She's like Vi's like reached out like on the ground, like trying to like still do it, and she's burning out. And her mom like pushes her, kicks her off the stone, and she takes over to imbue her own power and life force into the stone. She does it until she dies. She like does this whole big sacrifice. You know, it's her redemption arc. But like, I'm not gonna cry over Vi's mom dying. Like Vi's mom was a piece of work. She is not likable at all, in my opinion. She has these moments where she's like, I did it to save my children and protect my children, and like I get it to a degree, but like I was not emotionally invested in Vi's mommy even a little bit, so I'm not gonna cry over her. So anyway, they power it up enough, Vi's mom dies, the dragons come and fire it, and the ward, whoosh, starts working again, and all the wyverns start falling out of the sky, and the Venin flee. So the battle is won and over. Vi can sense that Xaden is still alive. She goes to meet up with him, and he's like being really dramatic. And it was fun to like imagine this part, right? He's like looking over the cliff's edge, right? And she walks up to him. You know, he's facing away from her, looking out over the water. And he's like, will you still love me or something? And she's like, what are you talking about? And he turns around, and his eyes are red like a venin. And I'm like, what? And then the final chapter is from his POV. He's fighting a venin like on the ground. And Sigale is like up in the air, like struggling with the attacks of the wyvern and all this stuff. And she's a little preoccupied, but she's trying to get to him. And Xaden is like dying, right? This Venom guy is really overpowering him. He's a stronger one than just the average Venom. He's talking all this shit to Xaden, like, you're gonna turn, like, da-da-da-da, all this shit, and Xaden's like, I would never. But the Venom is like, well, once I kill you, I'm gonna go to Violet and I'm gonna kill her. And that puts Xaden over the edge, and he's like desperate. So he is like dying, like nearly dead on the ground, and he can sense the power coming from the earth. So he pulls the power from the earth and is able to defeat the Venom at his own expense of becoming a Venom himself. So that's how it ends. Pretty crazy. I'm actually really anxious about it. It cuts to him like having a flashback of this scene, and he's like in bed with Violet, like safe or whatever, but he has this like drug addict kind of draw towards this power from the earth, like wanting to pull from it again, which would be bad in this world, you know what I mean? To do that, because it would make his like Venom thing worse. But he's just like, it's kind of like a I need another hit kind of energy. I'm just really worried for him. I'm really worried. And especially with Nolan having tried to heal Jack from being a Venom and it not working, like, I'm really worried for him. But him and Violet are still together. I mean, she was laying in bed with him when he woke up from the flashback. So we'll see how book 3 goes. So that's how it ended. I hope this video was at least helpful to remind you of what happened if you didn't have time to reread the books yourself. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave it a thumbs up and subscribe down below if you haven't already. I would greatly appreciate it, and obviously it helps out my channel. And I will catch you in another video. Bye!